Yeah. Can you name the churches for me?
St. Mary's Episcopal, Rockwell Presbyterian, United Methodist.
Yeah. Can you name the churches for me?
St. Mary's Episcopal, Rockwell Presbyterian, United Methodist. And the Catholic Church, which is asleep in our town, but the parish in Corinth is still the strong body. Holy Mother and Child.
This is not facility as such, but I think the very fact that we have that pavilion in the middle of the town, maybe we could use it to advertise some of these things. Like maybe we could have a folk school demo class there, or we have concerts. Maybe the students from the music center could put on a classical concert. I think it's in the pavilion, right?
Could be.
Because they're not professionals, they don't get paid. So I think we could do something like that.
It's a nice idea to, tie all these other places together as, real community assets and invite people to come.
Just because it's right there on my end and it's near the park.
Yeah.
One of the things that we discussed with the other people, when we have no restaurants open, but we used to have craft fairs in the summer. But we have another one, and then have one in the fall. I know they have some kind of dog thing going on. Talk about playground and where the pavilion is. Well, there's next to the pavilion, it's the town property. Put a playground there. This way, there's parking down. It's in town playground. We also talked about a walking trail, which there is one behind the other one. And we're also talking about a bike trail, and they said that there is a it goes from the town hall to the school. Some kind of trail right now. Not familiar with that, but something there. That was a big thing to bring that. Well, when Mike was a good program, but I'm like, one of the somebody said that she has 6 kids, grandchildren, but there's 23 to 26 first graders, which is in second grade.
Can anybody hear me speak?
Loud and clear.
This is Rich Dresner. Obviously, the sound is no better tonight than at the first meeting.
Well, Richard, your voice is terrific, but
Yeah, but I can't hear.
everybody
I really
else,
can't.
everybody
hear
else's is muted.
Right, I'm going to hang up in a minute because I can't hear what anybody is saying, and it doesn't make for a very productive discussion.
If you try and speak closer to your laptop or whatever you're near, I don't know how you're doing this, but it's kind of too soft.
Are you speaking to me or to the others?
No. I'm speaking to the group.
Right, they don't seem to understand that the people who are participating by Zoom need to have you speak right into a microphone.
And that's behind them. I think that's the town board's. Is that the town board's laptops? Yeah, notepads and microphones. But where are the microphones?
There's only one.
Richard, it's Pam Moore. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you, Pam, very clearly.
Yes.
And
Well, we got to work on it. We got to stand up, get on the table and get to the middle of the table to talk in the big microphone, and then you'll be able to hear us.
well, there's actually, as Stan has mentioned, I think over the last 6 months, there's another way to run Zoom meetings, and everybody brings his or her computer to the meeting, and then we can all participate. That's the way Zoom meetings take place.
Make believe you're each at home. If you
That's
were
right.
Zooming, you would use your laptop and the audio would come straight from your individual laptop. It's that simple.
Richard,
Yes,
the Wi-Fi has recently been updated. It was the reason that the last meeting did not complete what it's supposed to do.
We may be able to sit down and be loud enough with the microphone, how I just adjusted it. Richard, if you could let us know. Can you hear me right now?
I hear you. Not, I've got my volume turned on the highest level it goes.
Okay.
I hear Pam very well.
Well,
And yet I don't think Pam has the loudest voice, but she must be closest to the microphone.
That's right.
Yeah,
Simply bring your laptops to the meeting. That will, just as though you're Zooming at home, then the audio will be perfect. It may be upgraded, the room may be upgraded, but even in the town board meetings, if somebody does not come up to the table where the microphone is, then we don't hear them.
Okay, we're going to move ahead and hope that those who are speaking will move forward towards the microphone that we think is working the best. And we'll just test it for now. So we're going to go ahead. Tracy, you're on.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. We are, Jim's working on a big plan. Jim's working on the plan to get a bigger, better microphone. So that's what we're gonna do for now. Okay, where were we? We were,
The other items that were brought up was the need for childcare in the area.
is there a child facility at all? And how about
No.
Corinth? Or Hadley?
No.
I was gonna say, the only thing really we have for after school childcare is ESD that's run through, it's for obviously kids in school, but that's really the only.
What does that stand for?
What is it? What's ESD?
Stand up and talk.
Can you speak a little louder, maybe, so they can hear us?
There's an extended school day at the Hadley Luzerne School, and the kids can stay there. It's run through the YMCA program, and they can stay there till 5 o'clock. So I don't know if everybody knows that. They do have to be school-aged students, but I know a lot of people that utilize it that work till 4:30, and they really enjoy it. So that's, a lot of other schools don't have that.
And it goes to age,
Not the 6th grade.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So K through 6?
Well, I think it's first through 6th. Yeah.
So definitely a need for childcare. And go ahead.
They were also hoping that someone would get into building a nursing home somewhere in town. A lot of people have property that they might sell, that we could put a nursing home in there, but I have a name, but I'm not gonna, until I talk to the person.
Good idea.
When this facility was first donated to the town, one of the things that Gene O'Neill wanted to do was put senior housing, because we have about 20 acres here, but then funding dried up at that point.
Did your person who gave you that idea also mention housing, or was it definitely a nursing home?
No, senior housing too. I mean,
And see,
the property he owns, he thought would be a perfect place. I'm not gonna bring up his name until I talk to him.
Right.
That'd be a good idea.
It's a
yeah,
good sized property in town,
okay.
and a good area to put it in, I think. It's the planning board and the town boards. But
Hey, Roger,
it would work.
does there need to be a zoning change in order for that to happen, or is the property zoned for a nursing facility?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably more likely senior housing than nursing facility, I would think.
You can check with the Karen Putney.
Right,
This particular property has a lot in the backyard also.
yes.
So there's been some discussion. It didn't go very far, but this property has plenty of room.
23 acres, I think, or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's a lot of
Right.
room to get, you could utilize it a lot of different ways. You mentioned walking paths. I was looking out there before the meeting and you certainly could put a decent walking path behind there, which goes through the woods, a windy, nice little trail, exercise trail, whatever,
Where's the area we're talking about?
right behind us.
Oh, okay. Oh, snow.
Yeah, there's a
machine.
place that goes from school to the town hall. It's a walking trail. It's already there. I guess we just haven't, I didn't know about it.
Is it
Snow
behind
machines
us?
use it, and so
Behind.
the horseback riders use it, and snow machines use it.
But, I mean, might be good for bike trail. You know,
Mhm.
I was told there used to be an informal walking trail not too long ago from the end of Sylvan Drive up through the heights someplace. All private properties. And I guess there was some vandalism, so the owners put up fences. Right? I'm of the opinion that if that was handled properly, insured and so on and so forth, that might be a possibility if there's a walking trail.
Isn't there one by the folk school? Because I've been on that trail. a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, not really long, but.
Right.
That's right, we go down there with the kids and walk back there.
Has anybody ever been on the marginal lane in Luzerne?
No,
It's right on the ocean front. Obviously, this won't be. But it's parts of it are blacktop. If they're a little steep, so it doesn't wash out. There's benches. It's 4 or 5 feet wide. Probably half a mile long. Absolutely gorgeous.
Where is this?
In Wells, Maine. It's right on the coast. Just everything about it wants to make you go walk on that trail.
Mhm.
I don't think that's real expensive.
Okay.
I think I've been, well,
Yeah.
yes, I have been on it. Yes, that is.
It's actually in Algonquin.
Right.
How are you with your list?
That's about it.
That's about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the big thing about the restaurants was maybe bringing in food trucks on the day of the concert. Obviously, if the concert's Thursday, that's gonna hurt because Les Paul's has got a big thing at the shirt factory.
And also print just started, or they're gonna be starting, I pulled it up. They're doing Thursday nights, July and August, and they're bringing in food trucks.
So we usually do Tuesday or Wednesday,
Right.
so that would work. But just, even if we got a couple there before, you know, the concert and then during the concert. The problem is, who does, we're sitting here talking about it. How does this thing get implemented? It
I
has to go
have-
through the town board, it's everything, correct?
Food trucks at the pub party, very successful. I don't have a lot of them. They do fine. It's affordable.
Right.
And it's easy.
They had it
They
at
have
the craft
to.
fairs and we had it.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
they have to get permits through the town? Like when you have an event, do they have to get a permit first through the town before
Yeah, but
It's,
they?
it's minimal cost.
it's minimal cost and it's a pretty easy group to get along.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just didn't know if they just showed up or if they had to get a permit from you.
But they have to have permission to use the pavilion. But it's not easy, not difficult to get, you just want to make sure you don't have 2 or 3
Yeah.
groups using it the same day.
So I think it would be the chamber, right? Who would
One of the
organize
people was
that?
there on the chamber,
Mhm.
but the whole thing is, you gotta go through the town to get money to do this.
Yeah.
And the town is the town. I can't tell you what the town's gonna do.
Yeah. Well, I think from what I've seen, like in Glens Falls and Grant Lake, having a regular day for
Mhm.
them, people just look forward to it. They put it on their calendar and they come.
Mhm.
And it's, so if you can correspond it with events,
I think you'd have a good turnout. I mean,
Yeah.
is Longhorn open up? on Especially Tuesdays and Tuesday Thursdays? nights. No,
Right,
nothing's
nothing's
open.
open on Tuesday.
Everything's, right, Tuesday night would be a perfect night.
Do you know when they're gonna have the concerts this year?
I think somebody already started.
I know one's through the senior center, but that's a special thing. One-
Right,
one
that's
and
their
two
own money.
and one
That's a
others,
separate
right?
thing, yeah. And I don't, either one is involving food at this time.
I don't know.
Two things. To have a special event, it has to be a passionate person that's gonna pull it off. You've got to have somebody with the energy that wants it, whether it's the church and they need fuel money for the winter, there's gotta be a good old reason, and the person that's gonna take the lead on it. The second is, every town in Warren County gets occupancy tax. They get a certain amount at the beginning of the year, and then when the books kind of even out or get total off, there could be another shot in the thing. We don't particularly have a occupancy tax committee that distributes and or you apply to. Other towns do. They have a short form. Okay, so it's your church. You want to have a concert with a food thing like that, and you're asking for $1,000 for advertising. We don't have that access publicly. People don't know that they can do that. We have a steady stream of dollars that go out every year, to the
I think.
to the folk school, to the,
$75,000 worth.
sorry,
I think we just got 75 grand.
right. So other towns, because I'm old enough to know the day the occupancy tax went into business with the county, because I helped write it in the beginning under tourism. So it grew into being almost anything, and that change happened when 5,000 firemen were coming to Lake George for a 4-day event. And now we're talking bathrooms, porta johns, and extra things that had to make that happen. So that's when it opened the door to a lot of people that things had to be paid for, and where was this gonna come from? But anyway, in the beginning, most towns got together themselves and had a form of applying for occupancy tax. I'm suggesting it be revitalized and publicized. And so coming on to next year, folks like a small church or whatever would have a chance to even think, okay, us 3 new ladies could pull off a craft show or something like that. But bottom line is a person and a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So the occupancy tax flow of dollars has never been really transparent of how to apply for it and or where it goes. I think once a year they may have to let the county know if you're saying $75,000, probably a year from now, they probably have to write a note, where that 75,000, but it's really, it's an important thing. It's a bottom line, important thing of dollars that are coming to us from the visitor. It's visitors' occupancy tax dollars, none of ours.
That is the last point I'm gonna make. The tax assessor was there. She had this whole big board of new places that were sold and bought by LLCs, Airbnbs. We're getting nothing. The county, nothing set up. So that's a big, big thing.
Yeah, that needs to be a priority.
Is that, who makes that decision? Is it a town level decision? Is that a county?
The counties actually work, Warren County's working on something for Airbnb.
And once they cut that resolution, the towns will follow
Right.
after they take it at that level.
Right now, I know Warrensburg put one into effect probably 2 years ago. Bolton did one about 1.5 years ago. Somebody else did too.
Like George,
Like George.
maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, and the general consensus from all 3 of those towns is it's very effective. They're happy with the results. Basically, what it does is it regulates those, so that anybody that owns one has to get a permit to operate it. To get the permit, they have to have a county inspection to make sure the infrastructure of the house, if you will, can handle it. Septic system, number of bathrooms, square footage, parking, those kinds of things. And it also makes sure that somebody is on record if there's a problem that they can get a hold of. Down in Pleasant View Drive, there's 3 or 4 of them, and I've had complaints with, local residents will call and say there's 50 people over there, and they're up all night long, and they can't get a hold of the owner of the place to deal with it. So
But we don't know when the county is going to have anything. How hard would it be for us to just copy Warrensburg? So take
I
one
think
area
it would be real easy.
Yeah, I think that's, we can't wait for the county, for that.
Yeah.
No,
It's on our loose ends list, I'll call it. Perhaps it should be brought higher up the list.
I only think it's going to be on the top, and this is a problem for everybody, and houses keep getting sold every day, like.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot, it was like a couple just in the paper the other day, LLC. The Luzerne, that's what
They
they
gotta
got.
stop as soon as we can.
All three of those towns I just mentioned, I've talked with them personally, they all do recognize the benefit of having those in town. So they make it known in the beginning of the resolution, the purpose of this resolution is not to eliminate them, it's to encourage them, but within certain guidelines.
Regular.
Yeah, they're paying town taxes, they're spending money here, but it needs to be better supervised.
So making sure part of it is, you talk about the inspections, making sure the facility is safe, that there's sufficient parking, that the septic system can handle. Bunch of people coming in, that, all of those things matter. I mean, if it's a lake property, you don't want septic overrunning into the, into the lake. So, yeah.
Our bedroom numbers are not high in Lake Luzerne. Motels, cabins, they're not high. So we're very, very blessed to have the visitors occupancy tax come into our town. And to add on to it for safety and security and all the other legalities, to have the B&Bs comply, or the Airbnbs, I'm sorry, to have them comply is a very strong part of what our planning should be about. But we're blessed to have that occupancy tax.
So you want to get more of it by charging these Airbnbs the fees that they.
Well, it's only fair that they're in compliance, right? They're doing business. They need to be in compliance.
Charge the fee or is it a tax?
The permit,
They're not-
Or for
They're
the
gonna charge
B&Bs,
anything.
or well, what
for
you're
the
trying.
towns that have something in place now, they're charged a permit. It's not,
Oh,
it's not big,
Oh,
it's $100 or
and
$200,
that's it.
right?
Oh, I believe that Jim, they charge occupancy tax on them too.
Yeah,
So
yes,
it's like,
yes.
yeah, it's like, so they enter this quasi commercial world, right? And you're not really sure what to do with them, but they have figured out to collect that occupancy.
Occupancy tax. And
Yes,
that's
that's
it's
the
not
key.
being reported.
So you have to register, I'm an Airbnb, and you have to report,
Mhm.
and the at least in Lake George, they watch they watch those websites like a hawk
Yeah. The other
because they're
thing,
very transparent.
the other thing it checks for, when it goes, what you're saying is make sure the property is insured.
Yeah. Now, the negative about them for little towns is that a lot of small towns are losing their basic housing stock to this activity. So that takes these houses that are so-called affordable maybe off the market for young people who might want to come into town with families. They're all of a sudden gone and used this way. But I understand the need for rooms and beds and revenues. I'm just saying it's the consideration is that you're losing your housing stock.
Lake Placid, Saranac Lake has a huge issue with housing for their workforce. Affordable housing has been bought up and converted into Airbnbs, and so it's no longer on the market, and people who used to be able to rent those places can't anymore, because they're all short-term rentals.
And if they're in residential areas, we need some way to protect the other people who are not Airbnbs, who are used to a quiet life from having a lot of noise and stuff like that. And it's not an easy thing to do.
There's kind of a related issue too, the town board is aware of, debated quite a bit, and that's long-term parking of camper trailers on properties. Kind of similar situation, but much, probably even more difficult to define a whole bunch of words to get a handle on that. There's probably 15 or 20 lots around town,
Right now, was it?
motor home or camper trailers parked there 10 months a year, and the lot might not be set up for it.
That somebody's occupying.
Yeah.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Our zoning regulations don't allow it, but it's kind of a convoluted logic that says it's not allowed, and that needs to be tuned up. but it's hard. I mean, I don't own a motorhome, but if you own a motorhome, you know, you should be able to just park it in your yard.
Yeah.
If somebody, grandkids come over and sleep in it for 2 nights, so, and send the cops after them.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating to make a point, but you can see that it's pretty sticky. But it's a problem. I live down on East River Drive, and there's a trailer down there that I swear if you get a hard rainstorm, that's just gonna fall right down on the road. Maybe right out over the road. I don't know what they're doing with their sewage.
There's one on Bay Road that was a house. They tore the house down. In the summer, they wheel their trailer in and
There's a septic system in there. Yeah,
but somebody complained, they go,
that's
nothing we can do.
perfect example.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
But don't they still own that property?
Yes,
Is there?
it's, that comes up, you know, it's
Yeah.
my own land, I bought the land.
So last week, a camper housed out on River Road at the old Stone Pond. Never seen that. I lived there for 24 years. Never seen that. He was there for the whole weekend. It's not a camping area.
You just pull on the side of the road.
So where's the enforcement? You know, because obviously there's existing zoning laws, planning laws, you know, already in place, but where's the enforcement piece to this?
And the enforcement piece, according to our CEO, and I've read the same stuff, she's pointing to me, she doesn't really have solid
Back up.
legislative resolutions to do much. For example, the book says something like it has to be so many feet away from the structure. Well, one of the people that are being accused of being in violation, there's a shed on the property. So they're saying, well, we have a structure. So,
Well, structure is not typically
yeah.
defined by a shed, though.
I would, as a town board member and zoning board chairman, I would love it if this committee would weigh in on that at some point.
Okay,
Both of those issues. The Airbnb one, I don't think that's as nearly as difficult. There's models to follow out there that are working. But this regulation about, potential regulation about parking a motor home or for long term.
I can get a hold of Lake George and maybe, and Bolton's and send it around. and be able to look. You have Bolton's?
I know Dennis, I can get Dennis a call.
Yeah, and I know Lake George's is tied to their zoning, because where it's largely commercial zoning, you can rent for any period of time. Then you move up to where it's more residential, that's 7 days minimum. So that sort of keeps out the riprap, shall we say? But it doesn't always work, because there's somebody in my neighborhood, and they were young people, and there were like 10 of them. So they share the cost, so it's not perfect, but it does kind of hold back those concerns of people who are, you know, just turnover allowed. They have no vested interest in the neighborhood, you know. But you might want to think about tying it to the zoning if it makes sense in Luzerne.
Was that something we bring to the town board, or they're gonna do that on their own?
Well, I would take it as far as you can. If the group has an interest in it and it's a priority, I would, you know, we certainly think about it, and maybe we workshop it, you know, sometime and with a small group, and then bring it to the larger group is what we came up with, and see what happens. You know, you've advanced it. The only other thing I wanted to bring up under education, arts, history, and entertainment is that you know, when I look downtown and I see these wonderful little gems, the little historical society, et cetera, and it's such an intact, beautiful little downtown. Is there a way to tie it together? Like, it's hard to know what's really going on or what you're seeing, right? So is this little schoolhouse tied to the historical society, and is that tied to the old paper mill up in Mill Park, et cetera? And there's no real theme. So if somebody was coming into town, you know, besides seeing, you know, a historic marker, individual markers, what ties it all together so that it becomes a place that people want to come take a walk and understand the town and have lunch somewhere, that kind of thing.
There's a pamphlet out right now. And I saw it downtown the other day. Somebody's created that, I'm assuming they did the chamber, and it lists other all these places. It's kind of neat, I haven't seen it before. We could try to grab one for the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
I don't know if anything ties it together all the time, but we do have a history day. We have certain events when people go from one of those places to another.
Okay, that's good to know. So the events, so History Day,
It was a historical walk, a lantern walk during the winter. It was fun. And they did a
Holiday school.
holiday stroll, yeah. Nice tie
Thanksgiving
everything
Day,
in.
it's a Sunday Thanksgiving weekend. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving weekend. It's the Sunday before.
I think Pam's point is well taken. All of these things, you need somebody to grab it and run with it. I think that's been a problem that I've only lived here 9 years, but I've seen that problem. You know, where stuff fizzles.
We're good at a crisis. There's a crisis in town, right? We know what to do, right?
no, I
But
think
we're
you're
certain quiet.
good at
peaceful.
lots of things. I think you're good at lots of things, and these events are,
I meant numbers of
Wonderful.
people. For numbers, when something's happening, we're all perk our ears up. But to get somebody to have a street fair with 5 food trucks,
I mean,
Fun Friday, with 5, you know.
it doesn't,
who's gonna
I'm
do
gonna
that?
take the school as an example, I work in a school, we have a very big problem with that with school as well. We have we have very, very little turnout for things, for events.
PTS
or even
PTSA
get
tries to
help.
do, the- you know,
Yeah, for
Look at the
help.
size of the Chamber of Commerce in the last 10 years.
there's probably 5 gals, you know, in town,
Used to be a big group.
85
Yeah.
members.
Something goes back to page 1, that there's a lack of volunteers. I think it's partly because we're a small town, and the folk school and the library and the historical society and the Lions, everybody's vying for the same small number of volunteers.
Yeah.
That big craft show that you talked about, Liz was the coordinator from the library. But hauling those, as everybody aged from 15 years ago when we came here, hauling those books up there, putting them under the pavilion, not selling them all and hauling them back, people aged out.
I was
The
gonna say,
volunteers
if
went
there's,
there.
I mean, I try to help where I can with things.
Mm-hmm.
Are you starting to see like the people that help with these certain volunteers for these certain events, as you say, are aging out? Is there a problem with, obviously, I think there's younger families moving into this area? I guess I see with school as well, that it's a younger group of parents that are not very involved. So I wonder if we can somehow get them more involved, that we could have.
Well, if they have school children, that's where they want to be involved. Do you know what I mean? There is a cycle to aging out, like.
I think they have to be asked.
I mean,
Can I
sometimes
make
I
a-
don't know about which
Can I make an
ones, you know, I hear from
example?
Sonia or
Schools asking all
people.
the time, right? You're asking all the time.
I mean, I can tell you right now, with Mary Alice and I can put something together. I very easily could put a craft fair together. I did PTSA for 12 years, but I'm also on the Lions Club, I'm in EMS Club, you know, our board, and I wouldn't know where to spread myself anywhere else. But I mean, I could definitely put together a food truck for every Tuesday. That is something I wouldn't mind doing, but
Yeah, like I went,
yeah, we could do something, that would.
we worked together for, you know, our kids grew up.
But-
Pretty small hammer.
But that's a lot for just 2 people.
yes, it is.
Oh, that was
On top of the
So maybe you don't do
other
it.
committees.
Maybe you don't do it every Tuesday. Maybe for now, you have it, you have an event in July and you have an event in August, and tie it to something that's already successful And what'd you say? Didn't you say there was something already?
June 16th,
June 16th, so
the
that's,
senior centers putting it on.
so that's June 16th Senior Center event. And then, you know, you pick one in
To
July.
Barbara
But
directly.
it's like June 16th. so
That's-
around the
yeah,
corner.
It sure is, that's, you
That's
might,
way too-
right,
Yeah.
right.
They usually start the concerts
Well, it isn't
after
there.
the 4th of July.
Calling up a vendor. If
Right.
he's available, he just pulls up. That's it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
But
But you still have to go to the town board, get it approved, right?
Monday.
I,
And then they'll talk to you if you want money, then they'll say, well, we gotta meet about
Then you
it.
gotta
And
meet
then
for the
next
next
month, we'll
month.
let you
Right.
know, come back in front. I'm sorry.
No, it
It's
is,
getting
that's
really
what I
hard
was
to
saying.
do
the
this
second
now
one's in August.
than it used to be.
There's a second concert for the seniors.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Linda was up at our meeting and she said they're in August.
Mhm.
They have a concert.
Slow
so you
start
know,
though, slow start.
All of it can work, but the point was, it's still, the girls are stepping up. But the point was, whatever is meant to be, it's gotta take that person. And if it's large enough and you need $50 or $1,000 for advertising, yeah, it's the process of 30, 60 days to ask somebody else for the money if you're not putting it out yourself. Kind of thing. So passionate person and funding some kind, but
I feel like you'd have to watch what Hadley's doing too, because Hadley does music in the park every Fridays,
Mhm.
and they put on food too, so like you'd have.
Do they have
to
food
watch.
trucks or? do
No, because they have a
just-
pavilion
Oh, they,
that
they,
people go in there and cook.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up later, but are there opportunities to partner with Hadley on things? So that you're not all, you know, doing separate.
I think people like it that we do some separate ones that, you know, you have music Tuesday night, Stony Creek does music Tuesday nights. So does Luzerne, sometimes, Hadley is Friday nights, so I don't think people should compete with our small other neighboring towns either. I mean, I love to go to Stony Creek on Tuesday nights, it's something we have fun doing, and the firemen put on dinner for everybody.
But if
Hamburgers
you're
are like
attracting
$5.
people that are around Luzerne, they're not gonna go to Stony Creek.
There's several of them that come over from Queensbury.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they love to listen to the music. I mean, there's several people that come here to listen to
to
music.
hear, but do they go to
Yeah.
Stony Creek too?
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, there's a whole crowd of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and the firemen put on the food and the money goes to the firemen.
Tracy, from the town board perspective, the answer to your question is yes. Both Hadley and Stony Creek, we have good relationships.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna, we'll just continue this and think about it and how it can be either beefed up or where, you know, maybe it's, you know, let's have a list of the events. Is there a sheet or something in the community about the events of the year?
You have a website and the town does.
And the chamber maybe too? Chamber has that list. Maybe see if there's any opportunities on there, any gaps or opportunities where you could start, you know, doing something that builds people coming on a weekly basis.
I think it's a Hadley Business Association that puts out the calendar of events, and they include Luzerne, Hadley, if something's happening today. They might, in the school district, I think, they include those.
Okay.
But the chambers is it's more of a directory of businesses versus the events. And then it's up to the town to go there.
It's very also beneficial to kind of wrap in the private sector as well, because you look with Glens Falls, the t-shirt shop. They put on an excellent event every week that incorporates not only the businesses inside the building, but also incorporates all the local artisans, food and otherwise that are operating within
And
that
that took a
area.
while, but people
Yeah.
caught on to that. And boy, they're waiting for it. Before spring is here, they're waiting for the
Yeah.
That's a
Is
shirt
that
factory,
Yeah,
right?
the t-shirt factory.
And that's
Thursdays, right?
Thursdays, yeah.
Thursdays.
So maybe, you know, for example, Bonds, Bonds puts on an event where they invite a bunch of food trucks. Obviously, they're making ice cream, so you've got invite some food trucks there. You can do a whole event, town parking, you got you know, probably 100 spots right across the street.
Take his name, he's chairing that event.
You have to talk to him, do all the practice.
Well, there's a car show here, there's car shows here
There
in
you
the
go.
parking lot,
Yeah.
I think it's on Wednesdays, I think it's
Yeah.
Wednesday nights.
Wednesday night,
So they could definitely, I don't know who puts that on, but they. could
HBA.
Yeah.
is the food shop.
Yeah, there,
What's HBA?
Hadley Business Association.
so there is a lot that happens, it's just getting more.
Yeah, it just may be something like that, that gives it a little more, I mean, I don't know how well these events are attended. Generally, how do you feel about it?
It's all in the promotion. I know, I've noticed with the town, even the town's Facebook page, it's wrapping in a lot of not only the history, but it's also wrapping in a lot of businesses too. So if you have, you know, in tandem, you have the Chamber of Commerce doing a lot of promotion, then you have the town doing a lot of promotion and kind of cross mingling. You're gonna beef up your attendance.
My history day, we got 62 people. I go to the concerts, there's probably anywhere from 60 or 40 to 70 people, same people, because they just love that entertainment.
Yeah.
And not necessarily majority coming from out of town. You know what I mean? So a draw from out of town is a little bit.
But then we're gonna struggle with gas prices too.
Right.
Now, gas prices are so high, that's gonna be a struggle for people.
Maple and April is very well attended.
April and April, I remember that, yeah. That's a cool
Is it
event.
It's all about the syrup.
You only have
People
one day
getting
though.
out and pancakes.
Oh, yeah, it used to be 2 days.
Yes, we have.
It used to be 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so I think I have a pretty good idea of that, and, you know, even if those events are mostly catering to residents, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't or want to bring in tourists all the time. It really is, I think part of our task here is building community or rebuilding community where necessary, and basically, you know, kind of drawing in people who want to live here. And I have a friend who used to work with me at the LA group, and he's from Luzerne. He's got 2 little kids, loves the preschool and the school. He loves this community. He loves this community, and I thought he'd never come here, that he'd be a Queensbury person, right? He loves it, and he loves everything about it, and they will volunteer, I know they will, but holding them, you know, getting new residents and holding them here is important for the next generation. And it's so that there'll be somebody to do things like Pam later in life, and you know, so you can't lose sight of these events being important to the local community and not so much the outsiders.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, we have somebody that does the senior and all the meals and everything. She gets paid for that, she does a great job. Would it be advantageous for the town to hire somebody to get paid, and then they would go out there, push out, because to just get a volunteer and say, I'm gonna be helping, be in charge, and somebody might just want one thing. Well, this person would be, all right, let's promote everything, and she'll go out and get volunteers, but then, you know, somebody's not gonna be worried about, well, it's online, you know, well, let's say he's in charge, and say, okay, Sonia, this is your time. Somebody else, well, okay, this is your time. The church, this is your time. You know, somebody that coordinated, because nobody's gonna do that, I don't think, year round, coordinated. Do it for helping.
Okay.
Just look what happened down here with the seniors and everything. Somebody's in charge with, or I think Warren County helps over there, don't they?
There's 2 different departments. Barb Mitchell is our senior center coordinator for activities, one-on-one with people and programs. And then Office of the Aging from the county has paying Lisa to oversee the kitchen and the ordering and stuff like that.
Barb actually is paid for her.
Yes, they both do, yeah.
Right.
They both.
But
do
one
it different.
from the town, one
Yes.
from Warren County.
Yeah.
And that's been working great. I mean, everybody loves it down there.
Mhm.
I understand.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what we need, somebody to coordinate, not a lot of money, but, you know, like a part-time part-time job to do this,
Okay.
just not here.
Well, ultimately, that could be one of the recommendations of. So let's move on to health. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
It's not a new idea.
Okay.
15 years ago, that was my title, Lake Luzerne Events Coordinator. And I was doing the activities on the website, part of the chamber, and a couple other
Were you
activities.
volunteering?
No, I got paid.
Oh, see, that made a big difference because then you could do that.
I
Now,
did.
somebody just to volunteer that whole thing, who wants to take to do that? Even if you're retired. This is my volunteer job, 5 days a week or 7 days a week. Because you're gonna be able to do it on weekends.
And several other towns now have a paid grant writer, am I right? They've invested in a position to look for grants, and if any size, not just the septic and sidewalks and other things, if something comes along and it would be a festival coordinator, right?
Right.
They would be there to grab onto something like that too. So it's not,
You know, like, let's say you were in charge and you go, hi, this is John, I want to do this part, I want to volunteer. That's all I want to do, I don't want to work year round,
mhm,
but I want to volunteer. You know, but you're in charge of making sure all these events go on constantly. Where, you know,
right,
So how did that dissolve? I'm just curious.
with what?
The position you were
It broke into 3 parts. I don't think it was full board decision, but 3 parts, and then one gal was doing just the events, and if you go on to the town calendar, you don't see it that way, because the new girl is doing it Facebook, right? And so it broke into 3 parts, and I hung on to doing History Day.
But I'm saying back, you said you were doing it 15 years ago, so what happened? What, I guess, did the position dissolve or?
No, it went along for a while.
Oh, okay,
And then just split
okay. I got
into
you.
3 different people.
Mhm.
And Sue Wilder,
Those are volunteer.
no,
They were
these are
paid.
paid
The
positions.
3 were paid.
Occupancy tax. So Sue Wilder does the ambassador program, where we have a person in each of the small museums in July, August, weekends in September. And she coordinates volunteers. She's searching all the time for somebody to be inside the pulp mill museum. And I did it the first couple of years. And they get paid $15 a day to be a volunteer. And sometimes people say, well, that's all right, I'll do it for nothing. And I say, if you're not using that funding, right, why would the town be putting it in again? So take the $15 and maybe donate it back for something that's an upgrade to the schoolhouse or something. So Sue Wilder does the ambassador program, it's called, and the gal that was on the chamber from the bank was doing the calendar of events. And I'm not sure if Kimmy does it. I'm not up to date now. If Kimmy, do you know about occupancy tax and that was okay. So Kimmy was doing calendar of events, and then I do History Day. And getting a speaker, pulling things together, and just for that.
So it sounds like a position that was covering everything kind of filtered down to 3 positions covering 3 things.
And it all started under the program called First Wilderness that was happening at Warren County Planning Department. And that's when, and it was all about the train from Corinth to North Creek and those towns. And I was in the planning department working on that program, and actually worked on, and I didn't know I was working on it, the 2010 comprehensive plan that was coming out of the planning department. I had a section to do, but I didn't know what the big picture was. So it was those 8 towns of coordinating them, and the highlight was the train and getting activity and getting people onto that. And it wasn't all that easy to get 8 towns to be in the same place at the same time, to say yes to doing the same thing, blah, 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 blah. Blah. The more successful thing is what's happening today with these pedal things that are happening. And also the new little train that's down in Corinth is just, looks like it's just doing a splendid short trip kind of thing. So that's how it started out of First Wilderness. And then when I retired and moved here, then it moved into, Gene already knew me from speaking at the board of supervisors meetings about giving updates and giving reports and stuff like that. So that's how I kind of got involved with what we could do here, to keep watching the calendar of events. So I would call all the churches, I would call everybody who did things and ask them their dates. It doesn't happen that way anymore. Yeah. So anyway, it can happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a paid position for the youth director also.
Yeah,
Youth
yeah.
position.
Right.
That was always a paid
But,
position.
but like, they would call me, because my son was, and they said, you want to volunteer to
Right.
go on the bus report? Oh, yeah.
No, exactly, yeah.
That's how they get volunteers, parents would go.
And you had mentioned Carol Gorham.
Mhm.
I lived in Chestertown and was so jealous of reading the newspaper about Carol Gorham and all the things that was happening over here in Lake Luzerne back in maybe the 80s. Oh, well, that's
They even paid
That's
the
when my
kids
kids
to
were
work too, because my
Yeah.
son.
Yeah,
was
my
like,
son, both
once
my
he
children worked.
grew up enough, he was able to leave.
But IP was behind a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's no idea.
That was called CRIC, CRIC, was a 3-town program. The International Paper was a huge funder for making lots of things happen with children and stuff like that. So we've had that package world before, and I'll just use it. We age out if you don't bring, the 15, 16-year-old on that loves it, that likes history or likes skiing or whatever it is, somebody to bring even Warrensburg, very well, the youth commission was so strong.
Yeah.
Oh, and baseball, summer baseball would be 500 kids in that program.
I used to have 400 kids in the beach program.
Yeah.
I ran the beach when I was in college. I thought I didn't have enough help.
And we have 3 beaches and we don't even open up one of them because of that change of. We have all good stuff, we do, but then it really does get down to people moving.
Right.
In any direction.
Just give everybody just to volunteer, I just don't think that would work. I'll volunteer. So who's gonna coordinate the whole thing?
Well, I think the thing that I hear is that more events may not be the answer. It's doing the events that you have that are successful really well.
Mhm.
And maybe taking out some that aren't as successful so that people aren't drained.
One of the biggest things was the business people was the fall festival.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was not here for that, but it was huge. There's the Queen and a lot of corporate sponsorships.
Yeah, parade.
Yeah.
Coming up in the fall.
Because I have a lot of materials on that and posters.
Okay. Well, that was good conversation. Appreciate it. I have to move on to health services.
Just
Yeah.
want to get an update on page 1. We're
Yeah,
not talking about
of course.
today. We say we need restaurants now that so many are closed, and that's true. I just want to point out that there are 2 that could be opening.
Tell me who are those? What's happening?
Molly's, is it? Molly's has the 2 sections, one that's 9 north. I don't know what's happening there. But the other part to the left as you came in, the breakfast lunch, that's going to be called, I think, Sweetie's House or something like that. They'll be serving breakfast, lunches, and homemade donuts. And the other one is Hadley General Store has been purchased. They're hoping to open by the middle of this month. They'll be called Rockwell Falls General Store, and they're hoping to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Donna Cavell and her husband bought it, but she is still keeping the fruit stand, fruit and vegetable stand.
Wow.
I heard maybe Waterhouses is gonna come back to the restaurant. I don't know who's buying it.
Well, I do have a little insight into purchased from that before it fell through.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe it's the same person purchasing it again, because I believe financial things have been, they'll hold me to it, but I believe financial things have been worked out. I think he has the visions of Italian restaurant, and I do have to say he does own a couple of other projects that he has taken over in Hudson Falls and has renovated buildings and has very successful restaurants over there. So if that's still the case now, I think that will do very well.
That's for sure.
I can try to touch base on that and have a more definite answer, but I believe that that's who is in the process of buying that.
Cafe, Sweetie's Cafe is like,
Yes.
Sweetie's
Yeah,
Cafe.
Sweetie's Cafe.
That's so, well, you know, that's big because now you have these three and you have the, Chinese restaurant, which people seem to love, right? Little Fish House. And I don't, did that open?
No,
Not yet?
no, and it doesn't.
And
look
that
good.
doesn't look good for
The
them
tri-
either.
the triangle is
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, their signs are.
He had a sign down with a date on it. He
I
changed
saw
it.
on Facebook the other day, I think, because he's lacking in help
Yes,
as well.
I saw that.
That they're having,
Special events.
I mean, I was at Nanaimo the other night for dinner, and they're struggling for help.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've been.
But they've been doing very well.
Yeah.
But I think it helps them to, they also have they have a following, I think, too, that helps draw in business for them as well.
Very unique
Yeah.
restaurant.
Never met him.
Yeah,
Where do you get a Koenig mac and
which, and I
cheese?
think if the scenario with Waterhouse goes through, I think that'll be another, like that'll bring in more people to their, bring in more people.
People used to love to come to warehouses.
Yeah.
I think Big Thing was the chef too, whoever the chef was years ago.
Yeah, you look at upriver was the same.
Upriver.
Yeah, couldn't get in there.
I worked there for quite a few years managing there, and that, I was very surprised to see him
Who opened the
close that.
Andy opened it, Bolton Landing,
Yeah, I heard that.
A barbecue
A
place.
takeout.
barbecue, Bolton Barbecue
Bolton Barbecue?
is
Yeah.
owned by Andy, and I can't pronounce his last name. Yeah.
That's it.
Does
Yeah.
he still go to Washington? No?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah, because Bolton would
He
just,
used to go and become pastry chef at the White House.
He's a good cook.
He's very good.
Must be a good cook.
Good thing about.
Plus
the
he
warehouse,
deliver
it's
your-
year round.
bring it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about Lake Luzerne is location. You're 10 miles roughly off the Northway. It's a wonderful little drive, all right? Any time of day, let's go for breakfast, lunch, dinner, go look at the falls, whatever it is. You've got a place where people could come for a short drive and enjoy a great meal. And I know hundreds of people who used to just do that, especially with upriver and warehouses. And reestablishing that it will be important, I think. Getting that day visitor to come and.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the folk school we have put in a electric vehicle charging station. And, the real reason is because of my job, my day job, I know that utilities paid for electrical upgrade when you install one of those. So there's a program that paid for bigger wires to come to the building that then serve the charging station. And I started to have a program to pay for the charging station, so that went in free. We paid nothing. And we needed the upgrade for the building in the first place.
Yeah.
To have more power for the blacksmith. And so all of that fit together. So one of the reasons we even thought it would be a good idea is people would come plug in when they walk over to upriver and have dinner. So it'd be all kind of one little community thing. And so, but upriver didn't hold it there.
I know Gene has spoken to me about getting a grant to put some out here, some of the E stations.
Yeah.
Get a bank of them out here.
I could probably help. I
Okay.
did the paperwork. on it. Yeah.
You're
and
in.
she's got your number.
Yeah.
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 What does he know about? That whole bench has been 100 years ago. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
one time.
Top story. That's how we did it.
All right, so moving on to health services. I know there's no health center here. People do. But
Every Thursday, or every
Every
Thursday,
Thursday.
yes.
There's a,
The mobiles. And they can have 2 patients at a time.
I even stopped there one day, our dentist abruptly retired. I can't even get to a dentist till January. And I stopped there one day just to, do you guys do dental cleanings? And she was like, no, unfortunately not, but it's, there, it always seems busy when I drive by.
That's a really neat facility.
Yeah,
I got the tour a while ago.
It was a little slow start, but they've gotten into a promotional campaign. And recently, last week, did a new flyer, and one of the gals was driving around to different public places to put the flyer up. But you can schedule your annual, with all your appointments through there.
that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Do
Is it
people
twice a
also
month?
use, is it twice a month or every Thursday?
It's every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday.
And we were told that if demand is such, it would be every Thursday.
I think that's, they want to pump the numbers up, so they,
They're very, they did not want the town to do any advertising for them. They want to grow into it at their pace.
smart of them.
Plus our school has a health center
yeah,
that a lot of other schools don't have
that's the
for the
idea.
elementary.
Which
And
is
now
fun.
they extended it so the high schoolers can use it, high schools can use it too.
What does
We've
that
had
mean
that
exactly?
for-
It's run through Hudson Headwaters as well.
We've had that for
That's a pretty quiet
15,
secret.
20.
It's
20
it's
years.
I
actually
mean, it's
very
a
nice.
good thing. to
Yeah, there's
know.
no co-pays. It's a wonderful program. If your kid has strep throat, they get tested right there. The antibiotic gets sent to Stone's Pharmacy and the parents just pick it up. It's a great program.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We need a
amazing.
good
Yeah.
press release.
Like we started
all
in
these
Glens Falls, it used to be.
It used to be
Glens
the
Falls.
quiet
Yeah,
things
Glens
that
Falls
are.
Hospital.
Yeah.
I know.
It used to be
They pulled
Glens
out.
I
Falls.
wasn't even aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a lot of people think it's for people that don't have health insurance, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's a great program.
And that's right in school.
Was the facility there
All the time,
Really?
all the time.
For anybody in school.
Oh, all grades?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
used to
like,
only be K-6 and then they extended it, so it's I think it's pre-K-12.
so.
That would be smart.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah,
because pre-K is now in
because
there.
And there's a high schooler that isn't, you know, especially with COVID and stuff, they would take kids, bus them down, you know, they would give them transportation down to the school and it's really nice.
You could probably get a pamphlet on that. It's
Yeah.
in our house, but
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
great
we
program.
Need like a remote urgent care, or even just like a 1 now or something.
That's like another thing too for us is having like
Something locally here that's not where you're gonna jump over
Yeah.
to
There's
Broad
one in
Street
Corinth,
and
there's
sit
not,
there for 4
what's
hours.
the one in Corinth? up
It's
there?
something
Yeah,
about.
there's about
They got 2 of them over there.
Corinth
Really?
has one in the
Yeah.
plaza, but I've never
But-
seen anybody there.
Yeah, I don't think it's run like that anymore. Years ago, I think it was, but I don't.
I've made the
think
mistake
so.
of driving there.
Yeah, yeah.
Doors are locked.
this current school's trying to, I work for current school and they're trying to get the health center and like Luzerne has. But that was all done on grants so long ago through Glens Falls Hospital, and they stopped it, then Hudson Headwaters picked it up.
This is Dr. Mary retired, we haven't had
Yeah,
a doctor in town.
So no doctor in town. How about dentist?
No, that's-
Okay, and probably Corinth is limited as well.
There is some.
There is a dentist there.
Three in Currently.
One retired. There's
Yeah,
no-
they have.
That's who I was.
That's what I'm going to.
Well, and that's the issue. Nobody's taking, there's so many people that I think that are, I don't know what the issue is, but a lot of people aren't accepting the patients and you can't get in this one. This one's not taking your insurance. Like I found one after calling 100 people, you know, in Warrensburg that they're booked out till January because they have so many new patients. And it's all the ones like Brent and they're, you know, either don't take your insurance or no new patients.
Right, so, hey, everybody,
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Art Havoc course. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is one of those areas where it's important when we're talking about other projects in town. I know you guys started out with talking about a senior facility and senior housing and other things. I mean, this is a chicken and egg thing. I mean, the facilities need to be there before people are willing to move into a location, because otherwise you need all kinds of other subsidiary services in order to get people to where they need to be. So I just wanted to, emphasize that this is not just a sole Lake Luzerne issue in terms of healthcare facilities. This is what all small towns across the country are dealing with, especially, in remote areas and other places. And then the desired housing tends to get focused in areas where those services are. So this is probably one of those items that if we can crack the code on and figure out a way to make it work, that it will make other pieces of the puzzle for the master plan far more likely to succeed than not.
What's interesting, and Art, I have a really good point. I think, like, I lived here now 5 years, and I had no idea there was, well, I didn't have kids in the school, so I probably wouldn't need to know. But the fact that we have that health center that you talked about, that could really be a draw. I mean, I can see where your parents with their kids, like, are you kidding me? My kid can stay in school and see a doctor.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, it's a wonderful program.
It is.
Yeah.
I've used it numerous times myself. If you can't get, a lot of pediatricians now, or even with your own doctors, you can't get into them. And it's nice that,
You honestly have no reason to go to another doctor.
you don't, you just call down and be like, can you see my kid real quick? They pull them on a class and do whatever, and
They were literally doing a COVID test from the parking lot through what's my.
Yeah, I saw the signs. So
Yeah.
there's an actual doctor at the school.
yeah, what,
They can give you Tylenol, they can, anything that a nurse can't.
Okay.
And it's here, like, they can do all that, and there's still the regular school nurse.
Right, so I guess my point is that that's great, and it's good for the people who already live here, but it's a Band-Aid. It's not something that's going to attract people to move into Lake Luzerne. And let's say that they're young families, because that's there, because they still have other people in the family that they need to deal with. That doesn't help the parents. It doesn't help older children. I mean, all it does is help the kids who are school aged, and it doesn't really serve all of their needs. So then you're back to competing with Queensbury or other places, or Glens Falls or other places where they could walk or easily get to those services, especially if the weather is bad and they need emergency services. That's one of the things about Luzerne is in the wintertime, you got to go over the mountain or you got to drive all the way into Saratoga if you need to get to the hospital. So that's always been a thing. It was always a thing when our daughter was little. It was like, oh my God, in the winter, if there's 2 feet of snow, where do we go? Do we go over the mountain to Glens Falls and risk that, or do we drive further and go to Saratoga? So, I mean, these are the things that, I mean, if we're going to think about the master plan and where we want the town to be in 10 years and what the desired course of improvements in the town and where we want the base age population to be to support all of the services and all of those other things, we have to think about the services that are available. And if they're not going to happen, we need to come up with a viable plan to make it still seem like it's acceptable. So we can talk about the nice program in the school all day long, but that's not going to do anything for a master plan when we're, trying to figure out how to get people here in 3, 4, 5 years or build out businesses. And I appreciate that we're talking about it, but it's not, I don't think that that's advancing the ball on the master plan conversation.
Okay. All right, well, I think it moves quickly into emergency services. We're going to pick up right where you're talking about. How do you view, do you believe your emergency services, fire? What? EMTs and police are in good shape? Do you feel that there's some gaps in services that you want to address? Anybody have any feelings about that, strongly or not?
We don't have our own police.
Right.
We have state police.
But you just have state and sheriff comes through, right?
As far as fire, I've been in multiple departments over my career. I can say that Luzerne, Hadley being what they are right now are so understaffed, under-equipped. For being one of the largest districts in New York State. Which I believe that, when I first joined Luzerne Fire, I wasn't even aware of that, but they're covering such a large territory. I've been in Malta and Latham and other departments prior. You typically do departments have 2 stations. And in a district that literally Hadley Luzerne covers, and they only have 1 station.
Demographically, we're one of the biggest.
Correct.
You guys
School
go all the way up to
districts
Bay,
also,
right?
so
Correct.
that's why it's such a big
Correct.
area to cover.
So beefing up some of the funding to be able to provide the needed assets for the department would be instrumental in improving response times, appeasing volunteers, that's another separate thing, but that's the department definitely needs.
Again, they're all volunteers too.
Correct.
No paid, no
The
paid
EMS is
position.
paid.
EMS
EMS
is paid,
positions,
okay.
They are paid.
I think it was a factor in the Mulder Reserve project. That was 8 years on the table and went away. But I think your response time, right, it's our township.
Mhm.
And though they're closer to Print, right, it was on, is it Paul Street?
Yeah,
Up there.
they were going to have their own fire. Right, correctly, their own fire.
They put that in their plan finally?
I seem
Do you
to
think so?
remember, yeah.
Okay, because
But I
it,
said that's.
it was a point of concern.
Do we get complaints about?
Response time.
Response time?
I've never heard any complaints about response time, but you gotta look at this from a micro level. The town of Luzerne being such a rural area compared to a suburban area, I just, for example, in Lake Malta, you're compact together, but you have the ability of being so close to a station to be able to respond somewhat quickly. Where in Luzerne, if you got a call on Stony Creek Road, or you're driving up the day, by the time you get there, in other departments, I got more nuisance calls than anything, but almost every call that occurs in Luzerne is real and probably more severe than most calls in other districts. If there's a fire call, it's a real fire. There's no, it is a real fire.
I think the town of Johnsburg has like 4 multiple houses. Because it got Weavertown, North River,
Right.
Baker's Mills, right, so they all volunteer too. And struggle with that many houses and having enough manpower.
The EMS, but they just did a school of class, John and I are both on board there, and 16 new members. There were a pick out of that, a couple new employees for that, so that's and that's a big group of people that have been doing all the classes and everything, so they're very happy with that right now. They're hoping to get a couple new EMTs out of that.
And I know the town stepped up when we went to them about increasing the pay for EMTs. And because we were one of the lowest paid in the area, and everybody was like, we.
Mhm.
So, and then we need a new, we're gonna need a new ambulance. So we're preparing to do that, bring it to the town. But so far, since I've been on it for a year, the town seems been cooperative because we present the facts. So this is what's gonna happen if we don't raise pay, we don't prepare to get another ambulance. They're stepping up on that, so. The special part is getting enough people to work. I mean, right now, it's okay. And even though they're paying, it's good. Somebody got to work.
There was some discussion I heard about, but I don't know any of the details. 3 or 4 years ago, they were talking about quasi county system. Were you involved in?
What do you mean?
Well, I think the objective was to try to make sure everybody had good staff. So the county took up some of the cost of training and stuff like that. It probably get this fourth or fifth hand. They were trying to eliminate the jump ship because one town pays more than the other. And I don't know if they were thinking about the equipment too, or just staff. Apparently it didn't have political legs because of that died.
Well, we were glad we had the training class in Luzerne because now we think we can get a couple out of it, but they can go anywhere they want until they don't.
There was a car accident in front of my house on Friday. And I was amazed how fast they got. No, I'm close by.
Yeah. You sort of.
I had an incident with a student a couple of weeks ago, and we were out in front of the Fox school. And that was me. And I was actually very nervous when we put that call in because I heard the sirens going off before I put that call in. So I'm like, I don't know how long this is gonna be. They were there within a few minutes, you know.
So there's somebody that stays at EMS, this all 24 hours a day, and then they also have another squad car, so if the ambulance is out, what's it called? John, what's the call?
Yeah, I know.
There's another little car that goes out.
Is it a runner?
Yeah, but it's a,
I don't, like a chunk car or something.
yeah,
Advanced, like an advanced.
car, yeah, so somebody else will take that. So
They
if
go
we're
in and
leaving
assess what is
Day,
needed.
yeah,
They can assess
Right.
what's equipment.
right, so that's, we're very fortunate to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then if there's a fire, you know, Corinth steps in, or like George steps in, everybody, and then Greenfield steps in for Corinth, so there's always a backup, which is always nice.
Is it true to recruit firemen? They have to become certified for testing, and is that a little hefty price for that schooling?
No, the department covers it.
Okay,
So if you want to be a fireman, you can just go to the department, apply, jump on the roster. And then you go for your certifications to become either an interior or specialized. But that's the benefit, not only for the EMS, but the fire, you know, there's a lot of resources to be able to not only advance in being a firefighter or EMS. Again, you know, this was a while ago, but I went through EMT classes and it was all paid. And when I found out it's paid, I'm like, okay, you know, so many.
okay, so can we assume when you're doing a fundraiser, that's, if I go to a breakfast, that's what the money would go to? Is to be able to pay for someone wanting to come in?
Well, I think that's actually either county or state funds.
Oh,
Because I
okay,
think,
so it's
like, I think the state provides the funding for departments to provide those training courses.
okay,
So whether the state provides it to the county, I'm not really sure, but, you know, like Warren County Emergency Management, they provide all the courses.
So
And
can
then
you
each department.
try to recruit people at any time, or is it only certain times that you can try to recruit volunteers? Like say if you have to go through training, is it
Yeah.
only open certain?
I know the
times of the year?
state has different marketing promotions. They'll do Recruit New York or something along those lines where they pick a couple times throughout the year where they'll push each department and they'll put out the marketing and the advertising for it. But that's, you know, again, like all programs, you know, there could be more. Because a lot of the resources are out there, it's just not a lot of people know.
So you can apply for grants. I heard like somebody just said you need a new ambulance.
That would be.
Well, we just go to the towns.
Yeah.
This is what we're gonna need. And, you know, and you can't just go get, it takes a year. and a half.
Almost 2 years now.
So you better plan now before you get to 200,000 miles, whatever vehicle. So good. So that's what they're doing. That's what we're doing now.
And the town's still ready for that.
Yes.
I think that's gonna happen.
but that's what I think I meant by having a grant writer, someone who was looking in all the pockets that the town may have needs to, all the time, yeah. Yeah, and they didn't always have a grant writer. It's something new for towns and schools to bring on a person that's being
We
paid
have
for
one on retainer.
focus. No, do you do ambulances?
I have done ambulances.
There
not
you
in a
go.
while, But I have done ambulances.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and fire stations and fire trucks and, yeah.
And John's got your number.
Great.
I think personally, overall, I've lived here my whole life, I think we look great. Yeah, that's why
Yes, I agree.
people that are on it are very nurturing and very helpful.
How about the facilities themselves? Do they need
EMTs are
upgrades or
brand new,
they,
yeah.
EMTs? Okay.
Fire station's pretty old, I'm not sure how.
It looks nice, it's nice inside though.
Oh, it's well kept, but I think it needs an upgrade.
Is it big enough?
I don't think there's ever a fire station.
Well, can you get the trucks you have in?
Yeah, yeah. That's fair. Yeah,
And you got land in the backyard.
that's right, that's
Yes, we
right.
can grow.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
definitely an upgrade would be nice.
Yeah.
So upgrade, you know, I'll make that note and you'll have to tell me how. I mean, upgrade needs a new roof or needs to be bigger, need a meeting room, new kitchen, you know. Do you have a wish list?
I'm sure there's a wish list. I think probably the biggest thing right now would be a secondary station. You know, because most departments will have 2 separate stations and more. But having people that are centralized to one area or the other area could affect not only response times, but also the location of a certain group of members. Because I know we're on East River Drive, there's probably 10 people within 2-minute response time to the station. So that's a benefit. But then you might have, you know, I can, not off the top of my head, another 10 people that are out by come off Hadley Hill, then over by the rodeo. So, you know, that by the time they get there, they've already missed the first truck and then they're coming on the second. Having, you know, multiple stations to be able to respond, you know, just get everybody in a truck and drive it.
That's good. All right, infrastructure, this is always fun. Water, sewer, roads, Wi-Fi, cell service. I want to start with cell service. How is the cell service in the town in general? And are there gaps?
It's gotten better.
It has definitely gotten better.
Gotten better.
The kids know what telephone pole is standing under.
Oh, they do?
One outside school.
It's definitely gotten better.
Yeah, you can tell.
There are places like in our area where you don't have service.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
my house on the lake doesn't have service, but we kind of sit in the valley and, yeah, there's not a whole lot. Unless they put a tower on this side and aimed that way. we're not gonna get-
And I think it's been on the table for several years, a Verizon package of some kind across from the Wesleyan Church.
On the water tower, that's where they have the AT&T one. On the water
Okay,
tower, I think there's room
But
for a
it's
second
supposed-
one.
Verizon's there now too.
they're supposed to make a big change downtown, but it never felt like anybody was saying, well, this is great, it worked.
I was in the car on the way to Hudson Headwaters, and my husband called me, and he said, should I do blah, 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 whatever it was, and I said, oh, yeah, oh, I said, oh, that's a good idea. And then I couldn't talk to him anymore because there was no service. And when I got to Hudson Headquarters, I checked my phone, and he had just heard, oh, and then nothing else, and he thought I had an accident.
Oh,
He was driving up and down I-9 looking for me.
Oh.
But what can you do? You have mountains there.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
it's tough to get complete coverage.
Those companies are mandated. When we were talking about the one up there, didn't she say something like they have to put 240 of them in New York State in the next 5 years?
Yeah, all the major, all the state highways or something.
They're required to upgrade their network.
That's good news.
I suppose that capitalism
Put on the wait list.
is a major part of it.
Yeah, they're getting funded.
I wonder
I think
if
it's
the
bad.
town has to apply for it or
If there's a list somewhere.
there could, yeah. You know, put your hand up for it.
I think they decide where they want to.
They do.
Because AT&T, the planet board down by Lake Leonard area, and they wanted to get in there, it's got to have hearings and everything. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people against it.
Did it go in?
Oh, yeah, because you can't consider health reasons. That's against federal law, so we couldn't fight that. That was a big complaint. You know, hasn't been proven, so.
Health reasons such as,
Cancer.
People in the towers.
Radio waves.
But we had deaths in the area earlier because no one could get cell service and couldn't call an ambulance.
Yeah. Right. But it went to like, the board could not consider it. They could fight it and do it anyways.
You're right, liability, sounds like. Okay, how about, now, I'm just gonna talk briefly on, the septic issues. Well, that's just come up because, you know, the lakes and what have you, and there's no sewer in town, and is this, how do people feel about this, or have they talked about it at all? Septic rule for inspections near, lakefronts, you know, within 50 feet of the lakefront.
Tracy,
Any
can I
thoughts on
back
that?
up a step?
Yeah.
Our water system is older, everybody here, if you add up.
Especially what do you call it, in the town itself, because
Downtown,
my system's okay, but it was built later. I don't have a lead pipe. I got the same water system, but I wouldn't live downtown. It's awful.
there, somehow that's gotta be planned for major overhaul.
Yeah. Weren't you gonna use some of that money that,
We talked about it, I don't know if anybody's still doing anything about it.
Some of the COVID money?
Right.
It
Well,
won't, it won't even touch what you're gonna have to do, though.
no,
I know that the town has applied for funding through Cedarwood Engineering 3 times to have that water
There's
system.
one pending right now, isn't there?
It was turned down.
Just recently.
Why was it turned down?
Well, I don't know, I didn't file it, but, you know, one of the problems is that you're just, not high enough on the food chain. Sorry. It's just, you know, there are,
What does that mean?
well, you've heard about, yeah, infrastructure
They keep
is,
to the primary areas.
it's failing everywhere because nobody's put enough money into their system. It's too expensive, right? So when you say, oh, well, we need this, there's, you know, hundreds of little communities all over saying, yeah, we trump that because it's our sewer system, or that's not that bad. Mine is this. And so there's so many applications that you just end up down here somewhere and not at the top of the hill, so to speak. So that's why, but it doesn't mean that you won't get it another time. And Jean has asked me to look at it again and see whether there's something they missed or whatever. One of the problems was the engineering firm had included, sorry, but what's the name of the little hamlet on top of the hill going down to Lake Benair? That little area that,
Northwoods?
maybe it's Northwoods. You know, you go up there by the park, you turn up the hill and the beach is up there. What?
Mill Street? Are we in town?
Yes.
We're in town by the school.
The Heights?
The Heights,
Heights.
the Heights, sorry, the Heights.
Yeah, we're all that way.
The Heights, okay, so, but when they work it so that it's income based. And those with the lowest income go to the top of the list. And so when you have the Heights and you enter in that information into the system, it skews the look of the rest of the community. So I believe what they did was they took out that piece so that they could more fairly represent the incomes of the community. And they still didn't make it. So I don't really know what happened, but Jean is on it.
Is there any metrics as far as condition of the existing infrastructure? Or
I
would
think
that
they
be a specific date of piping or, you know, the system, the whole system as a aged out process? They don't look at that, they just look at.
I don't know. That's a good question. And, you know, I think the state of the system is in one of the reports that the Cedarwood did, for sure. But they did have pictures of the pipes and the connections that were decrepit, asbestos, whatever. And they had some good documentation for this grant.
And they still turn it down.
They still turned it down. And I mentioned to him that these community project funds that are put out by the Congress, the federal, the senators and the Congress people, those are probably the best way to go. Because that is mostly infrastructure money. It's poor Pharaoh money. So they can pick and choose their projects. And are we Tomco or Stefanik? Stefanik. Okay, so Stefanik chose projects that were not around here generally, but you remember there was foolishness about where her territory was going to change, and no Saratoga County projects were in her bundle this year because she knew she was going to lose Saratoga County. So I don't know what happened here in Warren County. I have to take a better look, but they
wasn't going to change.
They were going to change. Okay. So anyway, I think next year the idea is you put in for money. There's millions. She gets 15 projects. The amount is not capped. Capped. And I think that is another way of getting at this. And she is funding small communities. And also Schumer and Gilbreth, they also have these funds. They're called something else, but.
Hey,
Towns
Got-
responsibility to chase after?
Oh,
or is that a
yeah.
public opinion?
Has to be the town, submits a letter of interest, a small application, nothing huge. And then she goes through them, it's February, go through them and they select the 15.
hey, guys, this is, sorry, I'm not interrupting again, but I want to throw this out for input here. I think my opinion is that our role is to say what it is that we believe is mandatory and should be in the plan, are the things that need to be done in order to get to the goals that we perceive for the master plan. I don't think that it's, well, if we get grant money, then these are the things that we should do. Our responsibility is to say where we should end up and say the things that we need to get done in order to get there. It's the town's responsibility to figure it out. If we don't get the grant money, well, then maybe we can have another year where everybody says, well, we kept the taxes the same again, because if we really want to put the master plan in place, then we're eventually going to have to just understand and deal with the fact that we might not get these grants. And if we want the town of Lake Luzerne to thrive in the future, we're going to have to invest some of our own money into it. I'm not saying that that's the goal. What I'm saying is we're spending this time talking about how to pay for it. I don't think that's our responsibility. I think our responsibility is just to say, we think these are the things that need to get done, and it is somebody else's responsibility to figure out how to pay for them. I don't think we should be not putting things in here because we're not sure whether or not there's a grant available or whether some representative is going to, put us on their list because it's going to get them more votes. I think that we're looking at especially these things like infrastructure projects the wrong way, because if all we're going to do is sit around and wait for grants, then none of this will ever get done, and it's just going to get worse to the point where it's not going to be doable. So I think that we need to put together the list of what needs to get done in order to support where we want the town to be.
Who is that that's speaking?
It's Art Havicourse.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with that. 100%.
I agree with that also.
With a little touch of realism thrown in. Just so we don't go crazy.
I agree with that, but if we have a chance to kick out something valuable, like a lead, I'll call it, it should be added into the statement of what we're presenting also. It can't hurt a thing to put in blah, 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 which we've been added on to if we know something.
Well, I think part of outlining or identifying things that you'd like to get done is how you're going to get it done. Is it feasible? And is it feasible is a reasonable question to ask. And that's all, it's just part of the conversation.
Well, but wait, I'm sorry, but is that really feasible? I mean, do we really have the people on this committee who have the professional or political backgrounds to say what is feasible and the way to get it done? Or are we really the people who have the background of trying to figure out what's best for the future of the town and let others figure out how to pay for it or how to implement it? We're not going to be the ones implementing this stuff. That's not our responsibility. It's to get the town board to buy in that this is the plan. And then they have to implement it in their budget. And if the budget requires them to go for grants, then that's what they do. If it requires them to seek more money from the county in a tax base, then that's what they do. If they demand more money out of the Warren County tourism budget, then that's what they do. But I honestly really don't want to see us start thinking about this in terms of, well, I don't think that we're going to be able to get that money. We're cutting ourselves off before we even get started.
Okay, well, we're not really saying that. Every part of a comprehensive plan has an implementation strategy, because you got to get real at some point. You say all this nice stuff, but how's it going to get done? So if you want a plan to actually have wheels or, a way to move forward, you've got to say, how is that going to happen? Or here are some alternatives for making that happen. And identify that.
I'm not.
After that is,
I am absolutely not disagreeing with you. Maybe I didn't make myself clear. I think we need to put together the list and agree on the list and then work on the implementation strategy. Not work on the implementation strategy as we discuss each item.
I don't think we're talking about implementation. I think the whole point of the committee is to put our heads together as far as the plan in general. I don't think anybody's trying to solve the problem. We're trying to put the points in place to solve the problem to the people that actually make the decisions.
so why don't we why don't we finish out this section and
I interrupted you to go back to water services.
So, does anybody have any issues with individual septic systems? I've been hearing a little chit chat about it in the town, right, along the river and on the lake, and where there could be issues, and I'm asking you whether you would like this plan to address that or not.
I think a good starting point is just water quality. Is the lake in particular the lakes? Is the quality of the water where it should be? Is there runoff of any kind that's making it into the lake? Septic could be a part of that, and if it is, and I know that there's data that's collected and sent off to a lab. There's volunteers who take water samples all the time from the lake. If that's showing a trend, or if that's showing that the data points to a problem, we should address that problem. If the data is saying the lake is fine and the river's fine, maybe there's nothing to be addressed. But I do think that it's important. I mean, one of the key features of this town is the water, that we have clean, beautiful water with accessible beaches that's open to people and recreation. We don't want to lose that. We don't want to have nutrients flowing into the lake so that it fills up with weeds and is impassable. And so having good, data to work from, if it makes sense that we should have every time a property turns over, the septic has to be fully inspected. And if there's a problem, it has to be fixed before it can be sold. I mean, that's in our control, right? As a town, we can make that decision and say, yeah, it's got to be right. And it could be that even before it turns over, that there could be a series of inspections around the water. So, but right now, I don't have that data to tell me that we've got the problem or if we're really doing okay. Hopefully, it's the latter. We're doing okay.
Yeah, and I did see recently with Warren County and there's been a lot more focus on septic systems and
I was gonna say,
Big
I mean,
George,
yeah.
when a
Huge.
house is sold here, there's, the septic system isn't inspected.
Refractory. It's, at least in our.
So I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I sold my house in Queensbury, and I'm pretty sure our septic was inspected.
Yeah.
It's-
I wanna
I
say,
think Queensbury adopted it and Warren County was trying to push it.
Warren County, set up a special committee. And it came to a head late last year, excuse me, and the resolution that they put together was to require an inspection on any, within, I think it was 500 feet of any waterfront in the county. And the inspection for the septic system had to pass before the property could change hands. It met with a fair amount of resistance, but the resistance, I went to several of the meetings, most of the resistance was detailed resistance. To me, it seemed like a solid resolution, but you know, some of the realtors are saying, well, it's gonna delay the sale of a piece of property. Detailed stuff like that. When it wasn't voted on, they did decide to keep the committee alive. Now we're June, and I don't think it's come up since back in December. They had 2 public hearings. They had one in Lake George and they had one in the county. And I would say it was 50-50 support versus controversy.
I think it's a.
I don't know where it's going to go.
That not only the town adopts some kind of policy, because obviously, I'm more familiar with, you know, town infrastructure where you're dealing with, you know, a large town handling, you know, most of the bulk of the waste, but when you have a small town with everybody having their own individual septic systems, not a lot of people know about it, not a lot of people familiar with it. It's usually a lot of out of sight, out of mind until it becomes a problem. But usually when it gets to that point where it's a problem,
It's a lot
the
harder.
damage has already been done.
It's a lot harder to fix it.
Correct.
One resource we have in town, and I'm biased, is the Lake Luzerne Association. They're doing it's called CSLAP is the acronym, the Citizen Monitoring. In fact, they did their first one this year. Saturday.
With my vote.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
They needed a vote. So.
Yeah. John vote.
Yeah.
And that group takes water samples 8 times a year, and it's a program that's basically funded by NCAM. The samples are sent to a lab and monitored. You can get the data from the last bunch of years that they've done that, and our lake's in good shape. Okay, but it could change in a hurry. My 2 cents in this would be we need to take care of all the ways, and you and I talked about this before the meeting. And I think we should start looking at the river too. I don't know how we do that. I think it should be stronger than a volunteer program. That's not a criticism of the Lake Association because they're doing a hell of a job.
Doesn't Brookfield do the water quality for the river?
I don't know.
Brookfield, there's a report every year. I think it's even on our website.
In all 4 of those lakes,
Is that the drinking water study that they're required to do every year? Is that what you're referring to?
it's again our.
I said there's a drinking water report that they're required to do every year because the town provides the water. Is that what you're referring to?
Something on the river.
What's up?
There's no drinking water though, it might get checked every day. The drinking water, not the lakes.
In our town system? Yeah, it's monitored constantly.
Yeah, that's what Art's referring to, that when you get your water bill, it's a
Right.
whole contamination, all that, it tells you everything.
And there's a big report that's the town publishes on the website every year. I just didn't know if that was the one that you were referring to. I'm honestly not aware of one that's done of the Hudson River every year that the town, because that's not our jurisdiction. So just to get my 2 cents in here because I have a hard stop at 9 o'clock. Again, this is Art Havikhorst. So having devoted thousands of hours of my life already to the water quality in Lake Luzerne and the nuisance aquatic species, I am absolutely fundamentally in favor of mandatory septic inspections on transfer of property. And if it does not change hands within a certain number of years from the date of a resolution, that it needs to be done. I mean, this is the one thing that you have on your property that affects landowners and the town and the people that are outside of the property. So I think everybody has an obligation to make sure that it's functioning properly so they don't affect other landowners, infrastructure, natural resources, or anything else in the town. So I am fundamentally in favor of this and it being included in the plan.
My unofficial poll is that most people that have waterfront property are in favor of it. They bought waterfront to have nice waterfront. One of the arguments to not doing it at the county level was the cost. I go to sell my house and I gotta spend 15 grand to put in a new septic system.
That's a benefit to the property.
In today's market, that'd be. would probably make small things there.
If you're about to sell your property and the furnace cracks out on you, you're gonna put in a new furnace, right?
That's condition of the sale.
I want to keep that river nice.
I think we had to have our septic pumps before, like cleaned out before it was ever even, and we had everything done and sold in 30 days, you know, it was no.
At the public hearing, as a private citizen, I did speak in favor of legislation. I wasn't on the town board at the time. I wouldn't anyways, but I did speak in favor of it.
Go ahead. Well, I think that one of the other so-called negatives from the people who are not in favor of it is that it can cause there to be timely delays because there are only so many excavators. Anybody had to try to get a project done this year? You know, there is limited people who do this work, and the cost and time involved is a factor. But I think for most people, it's not a big dig up $25,000 deal. It's usually they find something's clogged, a pipe going from this to the distributor. Yeah, it's collapsed, or, you know, the parts are old, you replace the parts, you're okay. And I think most of them, they're finding that, not that you need to, you know, do a whole hootenanny replacement.
But it's like any system, equipment, whether it be a water system, whether it be your furnace, you know, you service this equipment on a frequent basis to alleviate bigger problems down the line. And that's, I think what septic is turning into. You have a lot of people that aren't really paying attention to it. Not a lot of people pay attention to. And I've been on a city system pretty much my whole entire life. So this was my first throw in the bunch, here's your septic system. If I didn't know any, you know, if I was a, you know, nonsensical homeowner, out of sight, out of mind, they have a problem.
What happened in Warrensburg?
Big time.
Yeah. They almost went to jail and not having a sewer system. The sewer system in Warrensburg, when I was a kid, was a 18-inch diameter pipe that dumped directly into the Scoon River.
There you go.
And then I don't remember the details because to me at that age, you know, it didn't matter. The ENCON was suing Warrensburg, was the supervisor in jail. It's a big deal. They had to build a plant. So we need to monitor this.
They had to put the pressure on them to take a stand to do something. It's not like people didn't know, right? It's just the age and everything, and then it worked out. They had to cross the river though.
Yeah, they built the plant.
From Main Street, across the river and go down quite a ways. Across from Bowman, right? The old lumber yard.
It's not where the old people used to.
The Bowman, yeah. Paper mill, yeah.
And that's the other thing too, you know, you're looking at future plans, 5, 10, 20 years down the line. with the town, depending on the growth and what growth potential there is. If you get to a certain point where that growth potential hits that kind of domino teetering point, you're flirting on the point where you might need to invest in a full wastewater treatment plant. Because, you know, there's only so much that the system could take, especially when you have a larger population. It's a huge infrastructure upgrade, and cost is exorbitant, but.
Think about the repercussions if we don't do it.
Correct.
Go back to page 1, and what are our assets around here? We all keep talking about water.
Yes. Exactly. It's a good point. It's a very good point. And we haven't talked about downtown, but I mean, just the thing you think about around the lakes, but downtown is also, all the businesses are on individual septic. And
A lot of rock down there.
we
too.
don't really know what goes on, do we? Nobody really knows what goes on down there, so.
Sometimes you can do it in tandem, you know, you're upgrading your water system by in tandem doing, you know, a wastewater project as well. Obviously, it's not a cost that I want to absorb, but.
Engineering has come a long ways. in the field, too.
Yes, it has.
Right.
Not everything is a leach field today.
That's right.
So another district, real quick, back to health services, another great thing that we have in this town is Stone's Pharmacy. Stone's, a lot of people don't have what we have for Stone's Pharmacy. I mean, they deliver medicine. I don't know very many other places that deliver. And they'll open their doors any time of the day and night. Stone's Pharmacy.
Do you know that they compound prescriptions to the place
Yeah,
around?
they only,
Yes, it's a huge asset.
my niece, who is severely handicapped, they live over in Queensbury, and my sister has to come over here to get the medication,
What-
because it's the only
does
pharmacy
that
that
mean,
doesn't.
They actually make prescriptions, pills.
Oh,
Not everything, but I mean,
sometimes.
nobody had, my wife used to work for Health Visions, that was in West Falls. They were the only ones until the company got in trouble. And now it's just Stone Farms. That's it.
It's not CVS, it's not.
It's very rare. That's a really good point. I don't know of any community.
And they employ mostly all locals.
There's probably 6, 7 people behind the counter at all times.
Yeah.
And the counters
They're always busy.
only a little bit bigger than this table.
I have a handicapped sister-in-law and they deliver her meds monthly to the house. So
That's
my
incredible.
mother-in-law doesn't have to go out.
They also did a huge service with COVID testing and
They're
shots,
still doing it.
right? I
They're still
mean,
doing it.
that was the only place you could get them around after every place else filled up.
It's a huge asset to our health services.
And they have a tremendous history. I'm not remembering their date, but Stone's Pharmacy's been here a long, long time.
Still independent.
Original family?
I believe so. Or married into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a huge plus.
Yeah, as you think of things, you know, if this triggers any memories or whatever, you can certainly email me. So because my job's gonna be to fill this in and just give it some breath and, some, just fill it all in and then that is where you actually develop your goals and your objectives and ultimately your actions and recommendations, so it just sort of should flow, but you talk all this out,
Do you think it would help at all to see the 10-year-old plan, 12-year-old plan? It used to be on the web, but
Oh, I
it's.
have it.
You have it?
I do have it. And the problem with that plan is that it really was focused on the hamlet only. Yeah, it didn't do townwide.
I have it electronically if anybody wants it. We were, I think, we were advised by the town attorney or two ago to not put that on the web because of some of the things that weren't updated, specifically about ADA compliance and things like that. That's why we didn't put it on the web again. But I can send you an email, send it to you, and you can read it, and I can say, this hasn't been updated.
Mitchell sent it to us.
Did I?
Yeah.
I got it on.
First meeting, yeah, we got it.
Very good.
So the next thing I want to do, it's 9 o'clock, so the next thing I want to do is go downtown and have a walking group go with me. Whoever wants to come can come. If you don't want to be there, that's fine. And I'd like to do it before the end of June, before the next meeting, so that we can report back the findings. And the idea is that, you know, you park at the Adirondack, at the Folk Life or somewhere, folk school. And then we walk and we look at the condition of the lighting and the sidewalks and the crossings. You know, is this place accessible to people? Is it friendly? Is it open? Is it a, you know, we have a term now, is it a trail town? I know it's not a trail town officially, but you could be a trail town and be bike friendly. That sends a message to people who are on bikes, some bike racks, things like that. What's, you know, and the only way you do this is you walk it. And, you know, we could start like at the old schoolhouse and you get a feeling, you know, the sidewalk ends there. You know, we talked about maybe that land that's just north along the river road, they're purchasing it, and does there need to be an extension of the sidewalk? And so maybe we begin there and then you filter down and go to the bridge and that kind of a thing. So we walk and we also look at what buildings are vacant or underutilized. What lands are sitting there that could be used for something else, because those are things that we can bring out in the inventory and you know, could be used for our recommendations.
Would love to be a part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, every time I, you know, go to the Luzerne market and look across the street, those two.
Yeah,
buildings
that's
are
what I
kind of
was
down on
saying.
each other.
Yeah, that's.
And we actually, the folk school looked at the pink building and there's no foundation. It is, yeah, it seems, you know, oh, really? Cool.
Is that the one where the racking company was?
Yeah, and then the house next door to that was same
That
owner,
white-
same
that
property.
white-
No, that's dangerous. That's,
What
there
takes a
was-
town to not?
there was water standing in the open cellar.
Apartment town.
So how long does it have to take for them to? issue
Usually something has to happen
For them
and then
to-
some. When you're condemning, something has to be a point and then it's.
It doesn't
And
hurt to have
that
it
is
in
like
your
one
plan.
thing that
Yeah.
I think is a downfall to downtown, is like the yellow house right across from Upriver, you know, that thing was falling in for years and now they've done a great job with that house. I mean, every time I walk by the house, I am so intrigued by it. The inside, I think it's gotta be beautiful, but they've redone it and they're in the process of it and.
I met the owner. He was a nurse in New York City Hospital, one of the big hospitals. And he gave us all, every shift, all the time, saved his money, and then needed to do something and take away from being in the city and doing that. He didn't give up the job. He just needed to find a way.
Right, and they came up this summer, and there was like, a couple families, I think there was like 15 kids.
Cousins,
Yeah, staying in that yellow house.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so, I mean, so that, but then you have those two houses that are just, they're eyesores,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the
Are
main
they
part
town
of.
property or?
No, they're
No,
still part of
right.
the.
Oh, wow.
Town can take them down to be ugly.
Taxes.
Yeah,
are
yeah,
up, I
Yeah.
believe.
They are,
Oh, wow.
So
and so I guess until that's an issue,
Strong
can you guys?
Warren's up to the insurance.
Yeah,
too.
if people want to do something specific that I'm aware of.
So one of the things this plan can do is say what you might want downtown. So this is what you have, these are the businesses you have, and what's missing, well, we've talked about restaurants, a cafe, and that kind of a thing. We talked about a sports store.
That's
Right.
like I could envision, I mean, you have that little strip right there where the clothing store is, and then you have the insurance thing. I mean, there's really no type of boutiques or any, you know, any other shopping front that's down there.
Yeah.
And I think if you could get somebody in there, I mean, I don't know what that's zoned for right there, if you could change that to commercial, or if it's just residential. But I mean, if you got somebody in there and possibly that little red houses for sale as well, right?
What we're doing here is probably gonna recommend zoning changes here.
Well, and I was gonna bring that up before that's to get off the subject of this, is zoning change. I mean, I don't know all of the zoning, but I feel to get maybe more businesses in the area,
Yeah.
depending on where they are. I think some zoning.
Tracy can speak to the process better than me, but typically what happens is, this group will put together a document. That document will be approved eventually by the town board. It'll be tweaked and changed and all of that, and there'll be, I don't know if they have to have a referendum or not, but there'll be public hearings, so everybody will have a chance to look at it. You probably remember the process. And then, hopefully after that, the actual zoning map gets redone. Zoning can definitely encourage things to come into a community. Private business wants to go where it's easy to set it up and make a buck. If they come into town and want to build a nuclear power plant, it takes 50 years to get the approvals, they aren't gonna come. They got it.
But, saying that, one of the things I noticed on the west side of the street is that all the buildings are set back a little bit, right? They're set back, and that sets a stage for you. Gives you a nice sidewalk, landscaping, it's a green space, and then the river's behind it. And it's really very pretty. So say you take down those two buildings you're talking about, Cunningham's old building and the other one. I don't think the zoning probably speaks to what it should look like in that area. So if you want to maintain that distance from the street and have some green space, that's the kind of thing you're going to have to outline in the downtown district as a design standard or whatever that would go in the zoning. So if you decide you want to do that, you would write that in this plan, and then the zoning changes would be part of another effort, but you'd be telling them what you want to do down to the detail, and then it goes into the zone.
Right, because like the new building that's on the corner, there where the bridge is, the newer building that used to have the art gallery, and now it's a different place, or it's shop. Clearly didn't have that restriction, because it's right on the sidewalk, it's cement block building, so it wasn't like built to meet a character of an existing building stock on that street. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's not quite on Main Street. It's on Ridge Street.
Ridge Street, yes, yeah, it's right on.
There used to be a restaurant there called Vita.
I remember that, and they had raisin bread, French toast or raisin toast, I don't know, but it was incredible. I can remember this young
And
person.
as you go down towards the bridge, Dr. Mary used to live there in their house. Then there used to be a bank and there was a movie theater at one time.
Birds.
Wow.
What is that?
After
Right
going
before the
towards
bridge.
it.
You
Yeah.
got these long sheets of paper every week, what was playing each day. Yeah.
Funny. So anyway, we can have those thoughts. Those of you who can't come for whatever reason, you can think about it. You can go yourself independently and write some notes down, and we can share them at the next meeting, because the next meeting will devote to downtown, and that's a lot. It's a lot, but so that's why I want to do like a walkabout first, and then we'll bring it back and talk about downtown and some items. So what's a good day for people? A Saturday? Is a Saturday the best day? Or even a Sunday?
How long?
Oh,
Like an hour?
yeah, like an hour walkabout.
Anytime.
Could you define downtown, because my head is going from the schoolhouse over to the bridge, across the street to the variety store, back to Stones, and either back down Main Street, or including up to the post office, up to Route 9N and down Mill Hill?
That would be nice. That might take more time.
Business.
I would
is
stick
more
to
like
the
Main Street,
business
yeah.
district, and then we can, independently look at those other areas, pieces of sidewalk that may be missing, or, things that people don't, lighting that it has a gap. we can deal with it, but I would say the main area and going down Bridge and back. You know, so that's the walkabout and catch, you can go up to, take the trail up to Mill Park if you want from the Historical Society. I think that's a nice trail. I don't think I would improve on it in any way. It's kind of a, you know, it's kind of rough and ready, but it's neat. It's great. So what kind of a day would you all like to do that on? Could be an after school, could be like we got all kinds of daylight.
The calendar. Exactly.
All right, so what about Saturday, the 25th?
Looks to me it's early.
All right, what's early? 9?
Yeah.
9 a.m. Okay, Saturday, June 25th at 9 a.m. And we will meet.
Over the park at Folk School.
Let's meet at the folk school. And I'll send out a notice.
You're gonna be able to park there, you guys are going on.
We'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
Plus the parking lot's full.
We always hope for that.
Forging.
We might be able to park on the street too, because
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
upriver gone.
Yeah.
So let's meet there, and we'll, you know, I would encourage you to bring your cell phone or camera so you can take pictures of this and things that you know, things that you see, things that you want. And we'll talk about what is there, what may be missing or you want it to look like, and then we can make recommendations from there.
And when is the next meeting?
The next meeting, it is July 12th. I'm trying to spank them for this Tuesday.
Same time.
Yes.
Just one quick thing, the end of page 3, which are about water and septic and everything. As far as roads go, one of our issues is, I think that, well, the town does not control the state roads and county roads or private roads, only the town roads. About 70 miles of town road, and they can fix holes. As far as the paving goes, they have enough money, we have enough money to pave about a mile and a half a year. So, yeah. So something, you know, it was just gonna be paid.
We
you're
won't
not
be
gonna
around.
pay for a while.
Yeah, we just came on.
I would say, I think the roads are a big issue in Luzerne.
Right now,
Personally.
asphalt probably, we're probably half a mile at this point.
Yeah.
That's what we cost our.
Except for my road, I don't ever want to touch it.
And then
Houses
on
other than
the
Rose
second
Avenue,
link,
live on Rose
it's,
Avenue.
Five classes I did.
Between 9
Dodge and
and
Powell.
River Drive, they tend to go as fast as they can.
All day classes.
Yeah, probably don't have.
So there used to be road bumps on that road, on Stewart Drive.
Yeah, well, we finally got the speed limit changed to 30. 'cause
There
we
used to be
did,
road bumps on there. When I
Did you
drove
put
down
those potholes out there?
Yeah.
I got a question I kind of want to ask. My role here is to be the liaison to this committee with the town board. And I guess you probably figured out I can't sit here without shooting my mouth off. Is everybody all right with that?
I think it's great.
We need.
Unfortunately, I haven't picked it up. The town board.
Yeah.
I think we started last week. talking
I'm not
about-
on the committee.
Yeah, but you know, how last time Kenny Lane was done, it's kind of sat on the shelf. And more than anything, I'd like to see the fact that we're doing all this work. Goes somewhere, has something happen.
Yeah.
And so having you here is probably one of the best ways to make sure.
I just don't want
Yeah.
to overstep my bounds or whatever.
If you watch it here.
Okay.
I think you help give insight to maybe what the board is thinking or where, you know.
Yeah, but I also don't want to influence this committee.
Why
Well, you
not?
give your opinion.
Well, I
If
don't,
you're gonna speak, that is,
yeah,
you know, it's part of.
okay. Well, if you guys are all right with it. then I-
We all have a vested interest in this
Right.
at this
Yeah.
point. Having a connection to the town board is.
Well, and our response as well. That we should do our Christmas list and figure out if Santa Claus is going to deliver. I do agree with that. And I don't want to influence anybody one way or the other.
Eventually, I'd like to have the public making their comments too, so you're just doing yours a little bit earlier, so.
It all comes down to when you guys have your budget meeting and all of a sudden the budget's out of whack. The public's gonna say no anyway.
I'll be long gone.
Are you officially on the committee?
No,
You're not?
correct.
Okay, so are we still standing at 15 officially?
Monday night, I'm gonna propose that Sonia be added. And that Eileen be added as an alternate, which goes back to 15.
Okay,
with
so
an
that
alternate.
makes you 15 and then I leave these. So-
Now,
But I think after Art spoke,
does anybody have Eileen's email? I sent her an email asking if she would consider being an alternate, and I got faxes not accepting emails.
I do, so I send it to you
Okay,
if I have it at home. But I think after we talked about the Art talk, I think you summed it up nicely that when you do the wrap up of all of this, and there is some input on how things get done, it is what you do. Right? It just
It is,
doesn't
yeah, I
stop
mean,
with, it just doesn't stop with a list, a bulleted list.
Right.
No, there's more
Yeah.
wrapped, if input has a little bit of whatever put into it that we've given to it.
Yes.
Is a good thing.
It's a good thing. I mean, I think in the process, it's not pure, right? You're always, we jumped around quite a bit, right? And that's fine. But you're gonna go forward, back, you're gonna look ahead and say, well, that'll never happen. Or and then you say, well, why would it ever happen? Well, there's no grants for it or whatever, but it begins to shape what you do. But I think what Art was trying to say is, you know, you just have a list, you know, it's like your wish list. We're creating a wish list for the town based upon what we know, where there are issues and opportunities.
I would interpret that similarly, which don't rule anything out at this point.
Yeah. But we always deal with reality.
And one of the concerns that I've had from the beginning is that we do this work, maybe spend 12 months on it, get it done, right, nice pretty package, there it is. And you give it to the board. And a yes or no resolution comes out of it. How does it move along? Well, guess what?
Now you're rethinking it, you want to really.
Yes, as long as he's seated at the table, right, for every election.
What problem we had last time was that we came up with something and the board did approve it. And whoever was on the planning board at the same time just didn't want to look at it. Didn't want to
So
make it do
that, I guess that's a good, so if
Are we
this
still
gets
live?
approved, who handles them? Or who sees that things are implemented?
It's the board.
It is, it's a town board thing, but you know, what I would recommend is that you take this committee and a group of you become the permanent advisory committee to the town board. It's an implementation committee, right? Plan implementation committee. And you report to the board, you know, every few months, every 3 months, they want 4 times a year. And you have, you keep them appraised and you select projects that fit for that year and, you know, keep it going. Otherwise, you're absolutely right. It has no, the town board, unless it's a big issue, the town board has no interest in spending extra money or moving things along unless, you know, you have a way of bringing it to their attention.
The other thing that I think is all our responsibility, kind of almost like an enforcement side of it. If we see something that's happening that's not consistent with the plan, point it out. You know, 2 years ago, we talked this over for 4 hours one night. We said, no, we didn't want to paint that pink. Now they're painting it pink.
There's somebody raising their hand.
Oh, excuse me. Are you done?
Yeah.
Let's stay awkward.
You know that guy?
He sits next to me at town board meetings.
Should we let him talk?
Yeah, let's let him talk.
Are you speaking? Are you recognizing me?
Yes. I recognize it.
My first question, I may have missed it. Did somebody agree to distribute the 2010 comprehensive plan? Did I hear that?
I have it electronically.
No, about 15 minutes ago. Are you distributing it?
He'll give it to anyone who wants it, I guess.
I can email it to you, Stan.
I'm sorry?
I can email it to you.
Yeah, no, I have it. My understanding is that the mandate of this committee after 10 years, and this is basically a state law, previously of 2010, it was 35 years before it happened. The mandate is to update the current plan. I don't see, or I recommend that your effort be to work off the 2010 plan, see how it was laid out. Are there issues that came up in the last 12 years based on that plan? What additions, and you're doing that tonight, which is fabulous, you're bringing this up, but this is a wish list. My understanding is the mandate from the state is that you update your current plan. Am I correct or am I wrong here?
Well, you're updating a plan that was last done in 2010. That plan didn't look anything like what was done, that Pam gave me from the 1965 or 6 plan. You have, a town has all kinds of rights in terms of how they update a plan. You have flexibility, you can address only certain issues, or you can address the whole town. It depends on.
But if they conflict with something in that 2010 plan, all I'm saying is, it sounds like the word update your plan. There's an existing plan right now today, if you guys weren't involved in it, and that's the plan. I just recommend that everybody be aware of what that 2010 plan was, what restrictions were in it, and that's what the town board knows. The town board knows what that plan was. And I really think it would help you to organize this in that way. You want to create a new plan? That's up to you. That took many, 2 years at least, I think, to do that original plan. A lot of it had to do with state mandated laws, and I think they're still in place. You don't have to redo that. But I think it would be very, very valuable if everybody reviews it. I have a copy. Others may have a copy. I think it should be distributed. That's all I have to say.
I was gonna say, to add on to what he just said, would it be beneficial to look at that plan and to see if maybe there's things in there that we're bringing up that could possibly be in that plan, that things have been overlooked? Or that maybe has been.
We got that emailed to us. David Mitchell emailed it to us, so we had that opportunity from that meeting that we had, thinking we were going to have a next meeting. That's the piece that we were offered to look at.
I don't think it hurts us at all to look at it again.
No,
right? So
no, I'm
the
just-
fact that we've had more discussion now and have some ideas of our own, and now.
I mean,
go
it
to
could
look
be
at that
more
point,
work
it-
than.
Yeah.
But I'm also remembering your point,
There's a lot of work done.
assuming that you read it and that it was based on downtown.
Yeah, then none of the maps go further than the downtown area. So, you're looking at it and there's very little on anything. It didn't go town-wide. It really was the hamlet. In fact, I've forgotten the name of it, but it was hamlet. And I'm not calling this an update. I call it I call this plan the Lake Luzerne 2022 Town Master Plan. So it has difference, but it can be called anything you want, but that's what I'm calling it now, not really an update, because there really wasn't anything to update. It wasn't town-wide. It really focused on the river, the section of river going down to Corinth a bit, and the lakes and the downtown, and not much. That didn't go very deep. I mean, we're going to go deeper. So take a look at it. I did it, I read it, I did an audit. Drew did an audit of it and findings of what it was. And so we know what did get done and what didn't get done. And a lot got done with the interpretive, with the tourism and interpretation. And what I can do is highlight things that were accomplished. Doesn't do much good to say what wasn't accomplished, but I can.
Was there much out of that plan that was accomplished?
I think the tourism, some of the whole idea with the First Wilderness Heritage Corridor, that was in there. Those things have been done. Because 2010 to now, that was, yeah, a lot's been accomplished.
I have a
It'd be
paper
helpful to
copy
see
if
the-
anybody
To
wants.
see what
Welcome to
has
it.
been
Anybody
kind
want a
of
paper copy?
implemented in the whole.
Okay,
That'd be fine.
all right. So I'll do a little piece on what's implemented.
It was part of the focus on the handbook in the last plan. Jim Mandel, who was part of that group, that's where the idea of reusing the town hall, the old town hall, which is now the folk school, that grew out of that. So something's happened.
Yes, definitely.
One of the problems identified in that last one was because Poppins would just close and then there'd be nothing in town all year. So one of the needs identified was to revitalize the downtown area. And Jim Mandel actually had several ideas, which some of them came close, but didn't quite come to fruition. And then he hit me on the idea of the folk school. So almost had the American Canoe Association, it almost came in.
I remember that.
I didn't.
Folk school to the 2010.
Yep.
That's what it did.
So did you hear what we're gonna do?
Slightly.
Oh, sorry. So what we're gonna do is write up what was implemented from the 2010 plan. And if I can find things that weren't done, that were specific, because a lot of it was not terribly specific. It was a lot of the recommendations were more like objectives.
Exactly.
So I can look at that and give everybody a little table or whatever that shows what's been done, what's left to be done.
Yeah.
Make sense?
That's fine. So are you going to at least so they can see it?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
How are we gonna distribute it so everybody can see it?
Okay.
Give everybody a shot at it. It is quite high level. I'll agree. It's quite high level in many places. It did talk about the lake and things like that. But it was a very comprehensive, and that's what the term of this is, not just a master plan, it's a comprehensive plan. So I think it would give everybody at least the starting point to see what was accomplished and what wasn't accomplished. And if you think that some of the unaccomplished stuff is good to bring up again, do it.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Patricia, come home.
Stop talking, she will.
We're just about to wrap up, Stanley.
All right, thanks, everybody. And we will see you Saturday, the 20th.